So, you've gone through school without needing to study, and now things are getting tougher. And now that things are tougher, you don't know what to do. You don't know what study routine you should do. You don't know what apps or tools to use. You don't even know which study methods work for you. And since you didn't really have to study hard in school, you don't really know what you're doing now, and you don't really know what you need to do to study. Well, don't worry, you're not cooked yet, because in this video, I will literally teach you everything on how to study. So before we study on how to actually study, first you will need a structure. Now, a structure essentially allows you to have a reliable system for you to follow whenever you're studying. And the problem with people who never actually needed to study in their school is that they've never really built the study routine or the system throughout their school. So if you're watching this, then first of all, good job and congratulations. You watching this means that you want to take studying seriously and that you are not going to be relying on your stock knowledge, and you will start building your study routine and practicing it. So how do we start locking in? How do we build our structure? Now, I'm going to be honest. I know that you're watching this right now because you are motivated to lock in for school, which is good. Any source of motivation is good, but I'm going to splash some truth serum on you. This short-lived boost of motivation is less reliable than the toilets in the public gas stations. It's just not reliable. If you really want to take this seriously, then you will have to start with the why. Why are you doing this to yourself? Starting with a simple why will get you a base foundation to why you want to move forward with this. Trust me, if you do want to lock in with school, motivation is just not enough, and it doesn't mean that you get the same free time that you had. So once you found your reason why, then it's gonna be just straight up discipline at this point. You will have to start having the discipline to set time every day to study, to dedicate some of your energy for the day to build your study habit. I don't want to sound like your typical self-help motivational guru, but if you don't have a drive and discipline for this, then don't even bother. If you really want to lock in for school, you will really have to sacrifice a few things first before getting your footing onto this whole studying system. Now, note that I'm not talking about giving up the things you like doing for an eternity. Of course, for a sustainable solution, I still enjoy the things that I like doing, and it's important that since we're playing the long game, we should not give up the things we like. However, since we're talking about changing our behavior for us to be more studious, then absolutely prepare for a bit of change in lifestyle. That doesn't necessarily mean to be a bad thing, but just prepare for change. So, once you accepted the fact that there will be changes in your lifestyle and that you will need to have drive and grit, it's time to move on to the first actionable step. Now, this is probably the most effective way to lock in. No, we are not talking about being super driven or being super motivated. While yes, it's important, building an action system is way more consistent and that we can follow every day for us to achieve our goals. If you guys are even somewhat into self-help videos, then you know that systems are so much better than motivation because they are something that do not require feelings or motivation, which is a fleeting resource. Instead, systems are actions regardless of how you're feeling, so if you're ever in your low days, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect your flow of things as much as relying on motivation. So, how do we build our own system? First, we're going to decide on what applications or mediums that you'll be using when you're studying. And the first decision you'll have to choose is whether or not you're going to go digital or analog. Now, there are certain advantages to either. However, in this time and age, I really do recommend just switching over to digital now since it's just more convenient. However, that doesn't mean you have to fully cut off analog studying. If you're comfortable with writing notes on your notebook, then continue doing that. However, in terms of tracking your notes, your quizzes and everything, I do recommend doing everything digitally. Now, there are a lot of apps that you can use when it comes to your studying. However, since I'll be teaching you how to study, here's a general system that I recommend that everyone can follow. And that structure I recommend is the notes testing directory structure. Basically, have a dedicated app for your notes and for testing and for directory. Notes is pretty much where you will store your information that you will be intaking. Now, this will not be your main study method. Usually notes are seen as something that isn't really effective. However, this will be a good gauge on visualizing on what you know, and if ever you do need to get information that's not found on your syllabus or textbooks, your notes are there for you. Testing is pretty much the app that you'll be using to test yourself. Now, generally for testing, it can vary a lot. Now, some people generally test themselves from reading their textbooks or PDFs. Some people require applications like me. For example, I use the app Anki, which is a flashcard app, and it's pretty much used by most medical students and language learners. And some people can even test themselves by using pre-made exam papers. I would be discussing that more in depth, but I do have a system for a way to test myself. And finally, your directory system will be a list of applications or resources where you can access whenever you need them. These could be websites, applications, or books where you can access certain resources, textbooks, calculated services, and more. Now, in terms of scheduling for my exams and tracking to-do lists, I personally don't like having the hassle of having too many apps, and this is where Akiflow comes in. Essentially, Akiflow is a calendar and a to-do list all in one with app integrations, meaning that you don't have to stop using Google Calendar or Notion or Slack or anything. You can all integrate onto this all-in-one to-do list platform, which is great because you don't have to switch to different apps all the time. All you have to do is open Akiflow to access them all. The UI is really cool. You have this calendar center and you have your to-do list on the left over there, and there's even routines. I'll be showing you guys how I pretty much schedule my day or my week using Akiflow. Maybe you guys can learn a thing or two about how I schedule my week. So yeah, here is a little demo for me. Hey everyone, so this is currently what you would see when you open Akiflow, and I'll give you guys a little bit of a tour around this app. So let's get straight into it. So before we begin, I just want to show you the integrations you can have with this app. As you can see, there's a lot of them, and I just currently have 2, but if you're using pretty much everything else, just feel free to add them here. But yeah, going to Akiflow, if you open this app, you have 2 views. So this is your calendar view. This is where I sync my Google Calendar I've planned for the next few days, as you can see. And on the left, we have your main tasks right here. So there are different categories. So you have inbox, tasks due today, upcoming, which has a really cool view of showing your tasks for the month, for the week, and for the days. So right now I'm working on this current task right here, change your life with deep work. And finally, you can click all tasks to check your tasks. Now you'll notice that some tasks have this outline, and that's because if you go to your tasks, you can actually assign a priority for your tasks. So you have low, medium, high, or goal, which is really cool. You can even have projects and tags for your tasks, projects with different emojis and colors to make it all seamless. And after that, you can even check your statistics of your schedule and your tasks and the to-dos that you've been working on. And when you're done, you can hit here and click daily shutdown. And this is basically a routine for you to shut down your day and to prepare for the next one. So I can rate it good here. I can drag my to-do lists on this calendar right here, and I plan for the next day, which is this over here. And once I'm done, I can click ready to shut down, and it will show me that I'm done with the day and it's time to move on. What's cool is that you can even plan for the week, which is, I don't know, something that I have never really tried, but if you guys are into that, then there's a feature for that as well. So if you guys want to try Akiflow, just head down to the link in the description. I've included the link there, and you can try Akiflow for yourself. Anyway, back to the video. Now, trust me, this will be the hardest and longest process because you're finding your way to study. However, this will be the most rewarding. You will be testing different methods and different routines to see which really fits for you. And this may be the most demotivating phase because you will feel like you just don't know what you're doing. And you might feel like you're doing worse academically. However, I'm here to tell you that you're on the right track, and because you're finding what works for you, the way to get to that point is by experimenting and finding your way of studying. Trust me, I've tried so many things in my life, and it only came to a point where I realized that some certain study methods really just don't work as effective as others, depending on some people. So in this step, I recommend looking online to check your options when it comes to study methods, as there are a lot of study methods out there, and just try each of them and see how it goes. Now for my current personal study method, there are 3 applications in my system: Notion, Obsidian, and Anki. Notion is pretty much my database where I keep my resources and directories for different websites for different needs. I even have a university tracker there to track my subjects and everything. Obsidian is pretty much where I put my notes and where I convert everything into flashcards. And finally, Anki is the testing flashcard app that I use in order to test me and for me to remember long term. Using the system, I was able to score a 90+ score on my major general physiology exam. That's why I can confidently say that the system works for me. So, how the heck do you find your system right away? Well, the short answer is you don't. The only way you can find your study system that works for you is if you keep on experimenting. However, it can be very daunting when looking at the internet. There's so much resources out there and there isn't really one method that fits for all. So how do you start building from scratch then? Well, the simple answer is to just follow someone's system. You can follow my system, or you can watch a study YouTuber to literally copy and take inspiration from their system. You can literally follow my system of Notion, Obsidian, and Anki and see if it works for you. Remember, you're here to build your system, you're not here to get it right away. So don't feel a rush when finding a perfect system. You will know when your system is perfect, when you feel the most comfortable and your grades is reflected from that system. Now finally, the last thing you need to do is to develop your study routine. Your study routine is what will get you from I feel like studying to I'm going to study today. It's what will help you achieve your consistent study habit. So, how does one create a study routine? Well, I explained it more in depth on my How to Study Even When You're Tired video, but essentially your goal is to schedule a study routine based on the level energy you have for the day. For example, for me, I usually have the highest energy during the middle of the day, right after class. That's why my routine consists of leaving class and just heading straight to workspace and just getting straight into studying. That's why I do most of my studying during the midday rather than having it in the morning or in the night. Essentially, try to have a specific place and time for you to study so that over time, your habit will build up. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video and I hope you got a little bit of direction for your studying habit. This is Kai Notebook and I'll see you in another video. Don't forget to drink your water. Bye!